Welcome to the 2018 Focus on Inclusion Conference. My name is Brady Tragesser, and I'm a consultant with the Indiana IEP Resource Center. Today I'm here with Dan Habib, filmmaker. Welcome.
Thank you, Brady. Thanks for having me.
What does it take for schools to disable segregation and create a culture of inclusion?
Well, it's a huge question, and I'll do my best to give you a few thoughts on it. First of all, I think, as I said to the audience today at the conference, I think a lot of it starts with a hearts and minds approach. Education's hard work, right? And making sure that every kid gets what they need to be successful takes a lot of energy, a lot of planning, a lot of strategy. And if you don't believe in your heart of hearts that all kids deserve access to the general education curriculum and to their peers in regular classroom environments, you may not do the hard work to make it happen. And so I think that, first of all, it's essential, if possible, that leaders are on board in a school district. Principals, superintendents, special ed directors believe, and that they know based on research, based on the data, which is irrefutable from 30 years of research, that kids with disabilities who are included in regular education have better outcomes. They have better employment outcomes, higher education, relationships, behavior, across the board. So that's kind of the starting point, is understanding that this is going to be best for kids. And then you think about, well, what does it take to do that on the ground? And I've had a lot of people ask me today, well, can all kids be included? Don't we need separate environments for some kids? And I say, listen, it's not all or nothing, but the way I look at it is, if we know that the research says that kids are going to be better served if they're in the general ed curriculum, let's make sure every kid has that opportunity to start there in general ed, provide all the accommodations and supports they need to be successful, work together as a team with families and with the students to make sure we understand their strengths, their challenges. And if you do everything you possibly can and the kids still might need some time out of that classroom, well, sure, that's understandable. That they might need an hour of downtime to decompress, or they might have sensory issues or whatever it might be. They might need some individualized instruction. But in order to disable segregation, we need to first understand that the general ed environment should be the starting point for every kid, and they have a legal and ethical right to the accommodations and supports for them to be successful. And the reality is that that's not happening in every school in this country, and that would be my hope, is that we get to a point where that is the reality in every school.
So, being or becoming a legendary filmmaker in the inclusion world, how have you used filmmaking to create that culture of inclusion more?
Well, I am so fortunate that I have the opportunity to go into schools around the country that are doing amazing work and document that. And so, a lot of this is not about reinventing the wheel for each student. It's about creating school-wide systems that create fertile ground for great education for all kids. And that it means having things like multi-tiered systems of support in every school, where you understand that kids, no matter who they are, need some supports. Some kids will need more intensive supports, some kids will need less intensive supports, but every kid needs supports. Every adult needs supports. I need supports. And delivering those through a system like MTSS. It means seeing universal design for learning, which is a way to make sure that every kid has access to the educational curriculum, the general ed curriculum, in multiple means of formats and communication, that every kid has the opportunity to then express what they've learned in multiple ways. And for my son Samuel, that might mean he makes a movie when another kid is writing a short essay, or that he delivers a talk, or that some kids might want to express their education through more experiential experiences, like my older son Isaiah, who his preference is to really learn by doing and being out there. So I think that a lot of it is understanding that the methodology for inclusive education is just good education. It's teachers differentiating their instruction, using positive behavioral supports, implementing things like collaborative teaching. And I've been in schools all over the country, some of which are very poor schools, some of which are not as poor schools, who've done this, who've pulled it together. And usually the common denominator is very strong leadership.
So what are some tips you would give to families to assist them in creating a culture of inclusion in their community?
Well, I think for most families it's going to start with their own child. If they have a child with a disability, it's understanding your rights, the laws, and creating a vision for your child. For us, the vision has been that Sam will feel like he belongs, that he'll feel like he belongs in our community, in our family, and certainly in his local school. So we've advocated very strongly for him to make sure he has access to his peers, to the general ed curriculum. But we found in our journey that there are a lot of other families and a lot of other kids who also believe that we should all live in a diverse world. And part of our diversity is that some people have disabilities. That's part of the real world, that we should not segregate based on ability. We should not create an artificial environment in school that doesn't represent the real world. And some people will even say, well, what about kids with emotional behavioral disabilities? They can't really belong in regular schools, right? And I say, first of all, yes, they do. They deserve the same rights and access that Samuel does, who doesn't have an emotional behavioral disability, has a physical disability. But also, I want my kids to be able to navigate the real world. You know, when I leave this conference tomorrow, I'm going to be on airplanes and on roads and in stores, and I'm probably going to encounter all kinds of people, some of whom might be difficult people, and I need to navigate that. And I think I need to learn that from a very early age, that the world is full of people who act in all different ways. And I don't think it's productive to shield our kids from the diversity of our society.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. Those are great tips and
Sure.
great advice for families. So
Yeah,
thank
it's a
you very
pleasure.
much for being with us.
Pleasure
here
to be
today.
with you. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah.
Thanks.